Thank you, Steve, and thank you for everyone's interest for showing up today and showing an interest even in the previous webinar, which we're going to make sure everyone has a reminder to have access to. We are going to pack a lot of information into a demonstration in 20 minutes. So we're not going to get to everything, but we're going to get into a lot of the features that was covered in that first webinar. So to begin with, a very little bit about me so we can get right to it. Get with my controls here. And I am H2 Concierge Marketing. I provide consultation and support services for companies big and small, projects big and small. But one of my favorites is the job joys is PowerPoints. And so I am excited to do this today and see if I can there we go. I struck out on my own about 4 years ago, but I've been a BNI member for 5, and I am a huge believer in lifelong learning, my favorite core value. And for over 25 years, all of my learning has been focused on marketing in all different aspects, starting out in Chicago. And so you might say, why is this relevant today? And I would say it is because I have sat through, read through, struggled to stay engaged in, and even awake through more presentations than I can count. And so that's a lot of trainings, a lot of sales decks, a lot of webinars, you name it. I've been seeing it for over 25 years. And I can tell you, I am a PowerPoint geek and an overachiever. So a few years back, I decided to earn some course credit to sharpen up my PowerPoint skills. And so I'm going to share some of those with you today. I'm not an expert, but I keep learning, and I'm glad you want to as well. And so I know some things, and I'd love to share with you. We all can improve, and hopefully we can have a little bit of fun while we're doing it.
So I'm going to just jump in very quickly and say that if anyone has a question as we go through Holly's presentation, please put it in the questions section so that we can get to it after her presentation. And if you just have a comment or something to say, like, you know, that's the coolest thing I ever saw, you can put it right there in comments. So let's continue.
Okay, so like he said, this is following up on the how-to portion. So to cover, just so you know what's coming ahead today, these are the features that we are going to be using to create a title slide from start to finish. And obviously, BNI feature presentations are one way you can use PowerPoint, but we can use it in a lot of different ways, right? We can use it in networking and webinars and trainings. And so, but a title slide is what is common for most people to use. And I may be preaching to the choir a little bit, but I want to reinforce, we are primarily visual learners, everybody. And while, yes, we listen and we read and we absorb information lots of different ways, it's best when it's all kind of wrapped up together, because even the most dynamic speakers with a lot of training, they benefit from having visual punctuation to their presentation. And now in the era of pandemics, it's more important today that a lot of us are having to adapt to less contact. But we're really desperate to make more of a brand impression. So this is a great way for an audience to remember more of what you're saying and for longer, and to deliver some wow. So that's what we're going to do today. And like you said at the end, I'm going to have a little giver's gain PDF for some resources and tips that we used in the last webinar for people who like to print some directions to what I'm going to be talking about today, make some notes. We all learn differently, and so you'll have that. And so to keep the flow going, yes, Steve, please pop in if I need to speed up or not. But we start where we start, which is at the beginning. And for today, I am using, for an example, Diana Garlock's business, Anne's Flowers. She is going to present a new service that she has. And so she knows what she's going to talk about, as we have here. But you say, my goodness, where do I begin? And I think that's what is a stumbling block for a lot of the newbies here. This PowerPoint can be very daunting to look at, all the controls and where do I begin? But take heart, there are some shortcuts that can get you rolling fast, and for you that are experienced, is a good launch pad. So as you look in the upper left-hand corner where my pointer is, we're going to start with themes and then the design section. And these themes here are opportunities to have a preset template that each one of these has a unique font, and it's sized it for you. It's given you a color scheme and a background, and it's all doing it for you. And the nice thing is again, if you're not experienced, you can kind of hover over some of these and just kind of take those very bland texts that you put in there and see how they look before committing. And if you find one that you like, you right click and you can apply it to all the slides in a big presentation or just the one. And you can kind of just click on it and see. Now, today, I want to do something special for Diana. I'm a marketing person, so I'm thinking, how can I infuse her brand? How can I make sure that there's something memorable about her in this presentation? So we're going to show you some other little custom ways to go to it. But if you are a PowerPoint user with experience, you can start with the theme, and these variants here are ways to kind of customize. And you can see you can go into colors, you can go into fonts, and these are just ways to take those template themes and make them your own. And so, and just as a little curiosity, if you're wondering what these design ideas are, I am a Microsoft 365 subscriber, which means my PowerPoint might be a little bit different than your PowerPoint. Once you start creating something on the page, if you have these design ideas, it will start to automatically pop up some ideas on how to take what you have and give it a little bit. So this is just another way PowerPoint gives you a leg up.
Yeah, you know, Holly, I'm just going to jump in because someone commented on the fact that she couldn't find something that she saw on your video the last time for inserting logos. You know what? I have the most recent version of PowerPoint on 2 different computers. One's a Mac, one's a PC, and they both look a little bit different. So I think looking in that little search box or for the help to find what you need should help you find where you need to go.
Yeah, 365 is like an app that's constantly updating too. So anytime Microsoft makes a change to the program, I, as a subscriber that's kind of live, like an app, is going to have something perhaps more than it's been updated on your computer. So that does explain some of the differences.
Yeah.
But so moving forward, if we decide the theme is still a little bit bland and I want to go do something a little custom, one way to do that is to incorporate perhaps a logo, a picture, images of your brand into this and format it into the background, which is different than inserting a picture. This is going to be something that takes over the entire background of your slide. So you might say, geez, maybe inserting a picture is what I want to do, but you're still in the design area. So to format the background, it's right up here in the right-hand corner. And that opens up a box that will give me some options on what to do with the background. And without getting into the weeds on it, some of this is pretty intuitive, that you can change the color and do lots of different things with gradients and pictures. But for my purposes today, I would like to show how to incorporate a picture into it. It defaults to change into patterns. So you see picture or texture rather. This texture button right here is another preset, fast and easy way to do a little dazzle in the background. It will shortcut. So if I wanted to add water to the back, I could do that. But again, for those of you who are unfamiliar and get a little frustrated, go down to the bottom and look here and see reset background. If you want to just start back at square one, then we start there. So I'm going to insert a picture. But you might say, geez, I don't have great pictures. I would like to get some stock, and maybe I don't have a stock account, or I don't have great photography. Microsoft PowerPoint has an answer for you. There are stock images that they offer. And as this loads up, it's kind of like Googling in a professional library of great images that pop up, and it might take a little bit for it to come up here. But what it will do is it will kind of search for an image specifically, and we're going to see if it's going to cooperate with me today. But it will it will pop this up. It does go kind of onto your internet, which is probably why it's giving us a little bit of fits here. We're going to try this one more second, Steve, and see.
Yeah, I will say this is something that I had no idea even existed. And I was always just searching Google, looking for stuff, and much easier to get it out of here once you're.
It might be giving me, like I say, it doesn't quite want to cooperate here, but basically, just so you know, you have an option to pull up photography through this section here of stock imagery. Now, what I did, because again, the purpose for my slide today is to make it custom and have the brand infused into it. So much like a cook prepares by having all the ingredients off to the side, I have prepared a file of images for Anne's flowers that has some elements that I'm kind of thinking about here and fusing into her presentation. She's got photography unique to her. She's got her logos. And then I have snipped, as we often do, cheat, try and find some things on the internet that are images that are unique to her brand. So one way I could do that would be to incorporate her logo. And to show you a little bit of customization off to the side, this is a way you can put a watermark of it right here where you see transparency. That is showing it shadowed in the background. Obviously, I'm thinking that might be a little too dramatic.
That's a bit much.
Bit much, but it's a way to put something subtle in the background if you like to do that. What I
like that you can just like change the opacity of it.
Mm-hmm. And some people will put like just an image of their brand and their logos. Now, what I did was incorporated some other imagery she liked here. And we can just kind of fast forward to that. Clean this up here. The screen's in the way. There we go. So we decided that we were going to do an image that kind of had the best of both worlds, that I have a white space to add text and information, and then I have a subtle or vibrant, but there's some flowers in there, not overwhelming. So that is how we kind of format a background. And now we want to do something with this text here because it looks a little bland and it's not maybe in the right position that I want it in. And plus I still want to try and incorporate her logo in here so that she has some brand recognition to introduce her and maybe add a picture of her. And so without going again into the weeds here, a lot of this is very similar to how you, if you've worked in word processing, Word, Microsoft Word or something, you just kind of highlight some things and this pops up right here. I can make it bold. I can do some things here. So maybe I just want that Dare to Delight to pop. And I would like her service to be a little different. Now, one tool that not everyone knows about or remembers where to find is a way to customize the color of images on the screen. And so here you might say, this is where I want to change the color. Well, you have some choices and some people kind of go with the standard, but if you go all the way down here to eyedropper and click, you will now literally get this eyedropper. And as you kind of move about the screen, I can now maybe make my forget-me-not yellow or green. But I would like to customize it. And some people will customize it to a logo color to kind of keep the theme. So I'm going to pick plum. And now my text matches a color of an image on the screen. So again, we're wanting to make it special and unique in our own. And so what I just kind of did was is also, you know, you can move the text around, kind of center things. And so I ended up here by basically doing pretty simple tasks about formatting text. So now you might say, that's a pretty serviceable slide, right? But I want to do a little more. And I think I want to incorporate a few things. I want to break up the text a little, one. I want to get her logo in too. And usually presenters might want to have a picture of themselves, a headshot, something to introduce themselves. So those are three things that I'm going to have images in on this slide. Now, I saw something on her website that I liked, that I wanted to kind of keep the continuity flowing. Now, this is where we're inserting a picture different than formatting the background. We are inserting a picture, and it's going to say, where do I want to get it from? And I know that I have that folder on my device that we all saw earlier. And now here I have a little divider image that I snipped with the snipping tool. And when I click on it, plop, there I have it. Now, how do I put this into the program and there to my slide? And I think, I really only want that dividing line. I don't want the background that had to come with it. So a lot of us kind of use clips and snips of pictures, and we have that box, and we kind of, it doesn't look pretty. So how am I going to get that to blend into my slide? PowerPoint again has a really kind of fun tool to do that, and it's not really intuitive where you might find it. So I make sure I'm highlighting the picture, see picture format. Now that I'm in the picture I want to change, go over to the left here into color. And it's going to make sense in a moment that I want to make something in my image transparent. I want to get rid of that color. So
which I thought was impossible to do, by the way. So
yeah.
I'm loving this is my new favorite thing.
I know, it's fun once you realize you can do it. It doesn't take too many steps to do. And it's not a perfect tool, but it takes you a long way. You need to have a solid background. If you have kind of anything that's flecky or wonky, it doesn't know which color to pull out. So it works best when you have a solid, very distinguished from the image you want to keep. So just by clicking on that, shazam, I have my divider.
Is that the coolest thing ever? I can't believe it.
Isn't it?
I'm going to be using this like all week now. You see lots of dividers without their color anymore in it. Because this looks great.
Now you're probably saying, I see a little bit of a white line there, and there's ways to touch that up. We're going to crop in a second here, and we're going to get that into the moment. But for now, I'm playing with it, and I kind of think I want to divide those two elements there. But another thing I want to do is incorporate a picture, which we saw earlier. I want her logo in here, and I know that I have this really cool bird of paradise that she uses on her branding. But here I've got an image that incorporates her name of her business. And so it will pull this whole image here, and it's got the white background, which in some ways is okay, right? I'm over here thinking, how am I going to put that in? Well, right now I'm going to take this and move this out of the way, because part of what I'm putting in is this. And let's just kind of click and drag to make that text box a little more manageable. And we know that I don't need Anne's flowers written anymore, because I'm now going to insert an image that talks about Anne. Now, this is where I see a lot of people cheat. They like an image and they plop it on something, but it's really kind of like that. It's clumsy. It doesn't fit really good. And it doesn't make sense to take the white out in this instance, because I want to do something special with it. So now that I'm here, and if you go all the way to the top and I want to format this picture, what fun things can I do? Well, this opens up all of these options and how I can format this picture. And again, they give you shortcuts. So without having to get into the weeds of being a graphic designer, which not very many of us are, right? I want some options on how to style that little box. And so you kind of cover and you see some things. Now, what does a florist have that might be interesting and make sense? And that's a little card. And we get our flowers. So I chose this little image here. It's got a little shadow, gives a little bit of style, and it makes sense with her brand that this is kind of like a little business card or card. And so that's how I've incorporated that. Now, much like this up here, you might have to touch it up a little bit with some cropping. We're going to get that to a moment, because finally, we're going to do this first. I would like to introduce Diana with her name over here rather than under a picture. And you're seeing, oh my gosh, where is that going? Well, one thing you want to do is layer images. And you're like, how can I get that to appear? So if I'm here and I want to arrange how things appear, I can bring things to the front or send them to the back. This is where you control how things appear in front or in back when you have lingering. And so I want to send this to the back so that when I bring something over here, grab it. Now Diana is on top of that card. And this little circle will make it turn and line it up. And then finally, if I want to do, again, like I did up here, I can, for Forget-Me-Not, I can color her name and adjust text and font. And to fast forward through that a little bit, you'll see what I did. But lastly, I want to get Diana into this presentation as we're introducing her with this slide. And so I have this picture, and how many times have you had a picture where you're like, this is great, but I don't need it that big, and I don't want all that's in that picture. And I don't want it a square. So the nice fun thing you can do when you crop, and now you're still in picture format, so kind of go up here in the cropping tool, and when you click this down arrow, you have different ways to crop. I want to crop to a shape. I would like a nice circle to pop. Now, it's not going to be a perfect circle because the image I'm starting with is a rectangle. So when I do it, it kind of starts off as an oval. But I want to crop a little bit out of that. So I want to hit crop, and now you see these bars. And if I want to then make that smaller and reshape it, click and drag, and I know my shape I want to end up with is maybe about this. And you're saying, well, Diana's kind of off in the corner here. You click in the shaded area and you move Diana. And when you've gotten to where you're finished and you like it, just click off to the side, and now you have your image. And one last quickie thing here, if you want to play around with things, we showed about styles. Picture effects are ways to customize shadows and glows and bevels. And so I did a little something there to give it just a little bit of dimension. And so finally, here's what I ended up with. And so I cropped my little divider, I cleaned up a little bit, and you can move things around. So now that is how you format images.
That is pretty amazing. You know, I always think of, you know, something like this must require some Photoshop on the outside and then placing the images into the PowerPoint. But really, this is a design program more than just, you know, a placement of images.
It's the best of both worlds. They want to keep you here, right? They want you to use their products and give you as many tools as you can. And so for the beginner, there's shortcuts like the themes and inserting things. You can make it as simple. And for those of us who know a little about PowerPoint, maybe we're rusty because if you don't use it, you lose it. There's a lot going on here and they make updates. They want to give you all the customized tools to play with. So this right here would be a very serviceable introduction slide. But as I told you, there's one more thing I want to kind of zhuzh it up with and give it a little more wow, right? We want to do a little more wow whenever possible. And that is animation. And for you BNI members, of course, the animation we probably see every week is the timer on our weekly presentations and whatnot. That is an animation, flipping numbers to a sequence, to a time, appearing, disappearing. That is a very complicated animation, but for this, we just kind of want to do something fun. So when we highlight something we want to play with, up here is where you go to animations. And maybe I just want to call a little attention to here. And let me highlight that again. And I want to. Now you're saying, how did that appear just like that? Off to the left is preview, and I have it on auto preview, but you can, as soon as I make the change, it automatically shows me what, but that's checked. So you can kind of go over here to preview as well. And just like in everything else we've looked at, you can kind of play with it and see what you like. And then I decide I want to do something with her name. I can do that separately. And let's say I want to and make that wipe. And some of these you can go a step further and choose a direction. where you want to do that. And notice there's two numbers here. This is the second animation I've added to my slide, and there's two parts to it. So you're saying, wow, I can get pretty complicated pretty quick. When you go to animation, a way to control and edit your animations is right here in the animation pane. And you can test different things. You can time it. You can move the order around and that they will change differently. You can decide whether you want to start with a click. And one thing people asked about in the last presentation we talked about, you can add a sound. And this is where you would add a sound to this and change your timing. But like everything in PowerPoint, it gives you multiple ways to go at it. So up here, you can also see that you can make some changes and reorder as well. So basically what I did here is I've got an animation and I want to play them all. So just a little, my recommendation is, and this is, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? I am more conservative. I don't think you want people to pay attention to the speaker. You want people to be engaged in material and not be dazzled by all the fun stuff you can do. So I'm a use it sparingly, use it intentionally type of gal, but there's lots here and way more fun things you can do with it. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is transitions, and I'll go back to here a bit. This works very simply, much like animations. This is what changes your slide in a presentation to the next one. So you can wipe the slide and it will do a transition to the next slide like this. So for example, in a slideshow, we're going to recap everything we've talked about today. And I'm going to go in slideshow mode from this current slide in my presentation. Controls are down here on the left. And so today we started with something pretty basic, just text, a blank page. I have wiped transition and added in my flowers. I've showed you how I've added and colorized text and how I have emphasized and inserted and formatted formatting, both in the logo and in an image. And there you go.
Pretty.
With a little bit of shush.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people use animations only when they think that, you know, bullet points are coming up, but it's nice to use them in different ways to show how we can kind of put a little bit of sparkle in there, right?
And it's nice when it's relevant to the conversation you're having visually, right? And again, I think of PowerPoints as punctuation to your authority as a speaker, right? You don't want to read a slide. You don't want your guest to have to read a slide. You don't want them distracted. It should be, again, supporting you as a speaker. Or, you know, so you want to make sure everything's intentional. And so for Diana speaking, we wanted her name to pop. We want people to recognize her and her logo so that after this presentation, hopefully people are more engaged in what she does. If they drive by her location, they might recognize that logo on a van. They might recognize it on a sign and make a more profound connection. And we all want to build our brand, right? We're all trying to build business and build brands. So this is a great brand builder for feature presentations or any presentation you want to give. And so what we're going to talk, I don't know how we're doing on time, Steve?
We are about to go into Q&A. Got another few minutes.
Okay. Well, basically, here's how I want to wrap this up, is that there are way more things you can do as this. And we talked about videos and how to save this presentation and loop it. And there's lots of complexities. And so if there's an interest in going more of a deeper dive, this is great. This just gets you a slide either to start or to play with. And so hopefully we've covered the ground for every type of skill level here. But if you are ready to level it up and do it yourself, if you take a picture of that QR code, it is going to take you to a page on my website that has a PDF. And what I've done for people who like to print things out and write notes and see instructions off screen, you can print out a PDF, and there's a lot of instructions, including about videos on that PDF. That is from the other webinar. That is not changed. And then, of course, you might decide, as some of my clients do, I try to teach them the fish, and sometimes you just want the fish served. So if you decide you don't have the time or the inclination, or you just need help tweaking, This QR code will take you right to my BNI Connect profile. You can learn more about me. We can reach out for one-to-one, or you just want to reach out and have me help you. And then rock it old school here with a phone number, go right to my website.
Excellent. All right. Since it is 12:31, we've got usually 15 minutes of Q&A, which we're going to jump into in a second. But we have a minute to show the video presentation of how to place video in there. Since people
Right, just in time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. You might recognize this video. This is a slide that I prepared that is a video that a client of mine, AC Outfitters, for his presentation wanted to run. And so I'm going to show you how to format. If you want to click on, I'll go right here. Let's just start blank. So if I want to insert a video, all the way over here, it's media. And I want a video. And I'm going to recommend, whenever possible, have the file on your PC. You can control it. We all know internet connections can be wonky, and we don't want that any more than we need to. Right, Steve? So we've got to go. Yeah. We do not. So I know there's a video on my PC somewhere of that, and I have saved it on my, right there. I'm on my desktop, and here is my video. And when it inserts, it's going to take a second because it's probably a bigger file. It starts with what is the first image, right? And you've got the player down here, and like any image here, I'm up here, see up here, video format. I can decide how to frame that video, just like I could do images. And this was the one that I used for his. And I just colored the background with the color that he has in his logo. So that's how I got the blue. And then playback, this is where you control how it runs in the program. You can play it to preview it. You can put this in the middle of a presentation and make sure that it starts when you click or automatically. And you can loop here if you have a video and this is all that you have. Let's say you're at a trade show and you want to just loop something here, it'll just keep going. So you can insert captions and you can trim. So within his, I decided that I didn't need the whole 30-second commercial. I just wanted bits and pieces of it. And you can play around to where you want it to stop and where you want it to start. And you could also decide once you're in here, formatting, by the way, the poster frame is the image that I want people to see when I land on it. Scott doesn't want me to show him mid mouth open there. So I picked a logo. And so that's how I ended up with this slide here that shows the whole image to start with. And then it runs. And this is just a 10-second slip.
Outfitters, here for your monthly tip on how to keep your AC running cool and in tip-top shape.
And then I just know to get in and out of it and onto my next slide. And that's how you insert the video.
Yeah, that's pretty great, especially for those, that thing that you just showed me is fantastic. We get a bunch of videos from members. We always say, oh, we wish we had the BNI logo in the beginning, and now you just showed me how to do it. So thank you.
You can actually kind of go click through the video if you want and pick a frame. So if it's some image within the video, you can do it, or you can, so yeah, they want it to kind of be professional. So again, you're right. It's like you have very graphic design and video design tools all within PowerPoint.
Yeah, pretty amazing. All right.
Fun stuff.
Ready for Q&A?
I think so.
All right, here we go.
We're going to try and answer what we can. And if not, definitely reach out to me. You have my contact information up on the screen. We may not have time to get into more deep in the weed answers, but let's go. Let's see what I can do.
Okay, so Paula says, I have struggled to help my team understand when using too much transitions or animation can distract guests from your message. What is your suggestions for a ratio?
A ratio of transitions. You know, I don't know if there's a set number. What I will tell you is a rule is keep within a family of, you know, in other words, like fonts. I guess a rule of thumb there might be, I only want 2 or 3 fonts, your title to be a certain font, your body of your text a certain font. If I'm going to have transitions, and again, it depends on the type of presentation, right, Steve? You might want a little more dazzle and be more fun, but I think professional, you keep the same kind of theme to a fade. You might change the fade up by directions if you want to mix it up, but keep it as one kind of transition on a slide. And then if it looks dizzy, you know you've gone too far. I mean, you really kind of have to play and massage depending on the content.
Great. Okay, next question. When you go to the stock images, are those images all free to use because, you know, they're showing within PowerPoint, or do we have to look for copyright issues or things like that?
Those should be, I'm going to see if I can pull that up again. Let's see if I can get lucky this type around. So I want to design and format background. Those are free. Those are yours to use, is my understanding through Microsoft. You know, they're supplying those for you to use as stock images.
I remember once pulling in an image that had a message on the photo itself that said check for copyright or something like that. So I think that Microsoft is protecting it in that particular case. But if a photo just shows up and it pops in with nothing around it, you should be fine.
And I think some cases I've had issues where if I'm putting in a picture, and I haven't even purchased mine, I have a stock photo account, and it may be only for editorial use. So sometimes they do restrict the type of use that you have, and if my connection wants to cover it. But basically, it's like Googling within any kind of library, and so I think you should be fine.
Yeah. Let's see. Can we save the comments and share? Oh, okay. So if you are in the chat right now and you type on those, just click on those 3 dots to the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a function that says save chat, and you can save this entire chat. There's that one. Let's see. Previous webinar referenced PDF instructions, but I could not find it. Is there a link? Well, yes, here it is.
There you are. I just checked it before. If you're taking a picture with your camera on your cell phone with these QR codes, it should pop up with a link. And that link to the left, DIY style, goes to my website. This address below should go there as well.
Right, so don't actually click the photo, just hold your camera up to the image and that will open up the link for you.
Yeah. And then the other one is my BNI profile.
Right.
There's as in PowerPoint, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So yeah. There's a way to find me right there if you need help. And if you still have problems, just reach out to me. I'll get the PDF to you.
Okay, great. Next question. If we use a timer, can we also have a bell ring too? That goes back to the sounds you were talking about.
Oh my gosh, I could probably spend a half an hour on animations and timers. That's, oh my gosh, I love that. Yes, you can do a timer. What I mentioned with the animation part of it is you basically, if I had my timer, but if you go in here and say I'm going to animate something and I'm going to fly in, and any kind of animation, regardless of what it is, off here to the options, this drop down box, effect options, that opens up all sorts of ways that you can get into. I picked one that doesn't, there you go, sound. You can enhance with sound, and it will give you some previews here. I happen to have a timer bell that I downloaded myself off of a free site. I think it's called soundbible.com. And so I got a free sound of a desk bell, and this is where I put it. And you can actually make it repeat and do all sorts of things. So that is where on the timer for our BNI presentation, on the very last where you hit 0 or end, that's when the bell rings. And you can repeat it if some people don't pick up on the bell, if you'd like.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see. Susan says she's lost the sound. That happens sometimes on webinars, but it seems like everyone is hearing right now, so we should be still is good.
Isn't technology wonderful?
Yeah, yeah. that happens. Let's see. What's next? Oh, okay. So Sebastian's asking if PowerPoint can be opened in like a Google presentations format, or maybe in, an Apple program as well.
Very good question. That has happened where I've sent someone a PowerPoint, and when they downloaded it, it defaulted or it intentionally opened in Google. Sometimes there's a conversion tool within wherever you're sending it, and it may open and convert it to PDFs. What you're going to do, though, is you're going to lose probably some of the animations or all of them. And in some cases, it reformats the presentation. This has happened a number of times where I think someone's looking at it in PowerPoint view, and the version they're seeing looks like I was kind of a little punch drunk when I made it, because it kind of wonked it up a little bit. One way to make it more universal is you can save a presentation. It may not be your answer to everything, but if you want to export a presentation as a video, you can create the entire presentation. And whether you decide to use the narrations and timings, if you want it to run automatically, make sure every slide has a transition to go automatically. And you can decide here, as far as the quality of it, but this will download it as an MP4 file, and you can run an MP4 pretty universal on any kind of player. You don't need PowerPoint. So I had a client who didn't have PowerPoint. I created it for him, and I gave him the MP4.
Yeah, I love, Holly, you were talking about, he had his whole presentation running on a video. So the video was moving the slides along, and he had to keep up with them to stay on time. So if you have someone who is not so great at staying on time, I think doing a video presentation of the slides is going to make you keep up with your slides without having you go over on your time.
It is definitely, but I will give him kudos. He had a script, right? And he could run it and rerun it and practice his script. So for us in Zoom, where we are a little more comfortable reading off of paper, he knew the timings and he hit it, and he knew exactly when the slides were going to go. The president of the chapter didn't have to click. We didn't have to say click. He just was able to deliver a presentation seamlessly without having to click on either end. So that is the advantage of having it converted to a video, but it does take a special skill to make sure you're timing, because if you don't, if you have to stop, you can't, it's going to mess you up.
Yeah, I love this export option, not just for that, but you can create an animated GIF if you want to have something kind of cool playing in the background from a little snippet of a video. That's fantastic. So good stuff here.
Great.
All right, I think we only have one question left. No, we have two more left. It says, does it cost more for upgrades to PowerPoint? She's got an older version and didn't have the design and video button.
I think I will tell you that I signed up for Microsoft. I have GoDaddy, for other aspects. And so I kind of got a subscription to Microsoft 365. So like any other kind of app, I pay about $13, $15 a month. And now I have every Microsoft Office product up to date with all the changes and all the bells and whistles that maybe a resident program doesn't have.